He ignored her warning about the alien armor. Now it won't let him go. The gravity storm came without warning. 1 second, Captain Cade Rowan was gliding through a calm patch of deep space. The next, his freighter Wayfarer screamed like a living thing. Alarms flared across the control panel, red and orange lights flooding the cabin. The ship twisted violently, shuddering as if some invisible hand had grabbed it and refused to let go. Stabilizers offline, the ship's AI said calmly. Yeah, I noticed. Cade snapped, his knuckles white around the manual controls. The entire cockpit groaned. Outside the viewport, space itself seemed to ripple, stars bending into long streaks as if gravity had turned into a stormy sea. He slammed the emergency thrusters, trying to pull out of the spiral, but the force threw him against his seat. Metal screamed. Sparks rained down from a ruptured console. His chest burned as the ship's temperature climbed past safe limits. Come on, Wayfarer, he muttered. Hold it together, girl. The planet below grew larger with every passing second, a swirl of blue oceans and bright green continents under a copper sky. It looked beautiful, peaceful, but if his descent didn't slow soon, that beauty would become his grave. Mayday, mayday, Cade shouted into the comm. Transport vessel Wayfarer requesting emergency assistance. Only static answered. He tried again. Nothing. The AI's voice returned, emotionless. Impact in 30 seconds. Survival probability 17%. Not helpful, Cade growled, gripping tighter. His heartbeat thundered in his ears. The ship hit the atmosphere like a meteor, flames rolling across the hull. The world outside turned white-orange. The vibrations were deafening. Every warning light went out at once, leaving only the roar of fire and the sharp smell of ozone. As the surface rushed up, Cade's last thought was painfully ordinary. He'd forgotten to feed his cat back at the station. Then everything went dark. When Cade woke, silence pressed on his ears. His body screamed with pain. Every breath sent knives down his ribs. The cockpit was a ruin of smoke and red light. The AI was dead. The hull walls were scorched and twisted inward like crumpled paper. He coughed, unclipped his harness, and stumbled toward the exit. The hatch was bent, refusing to open. He kicked it once, twice. On the third hit, it gave way with a shriek of tearing metal. Cool air rushed in. Outside, the alien world stretched in every direction. Fields of tall purple grass waved in a slow wind. Distant mountains gleamed like polished bronze under a twin sunset. The sky shimmered between blue and gold, filled with drifting clouds that looked almost alive. Cade took a breath. The air was thin but breathable. His scanner blinked green, no toxins. Well, he muttered, brushing soot from his jacket, at least I can breathe while I die out here. The Wayfarer was finished, a smoking carcass half buried in alien soil. He grabbed his emergency pack and stepped away, the soft ground crunching under his boots. His beacon was active, pulsing weakly. But who would hear him this far from any known route? Something rustled behind him. Cade froze. Hand on his blaster. Slowly he turned. A shape moved between the glowing grass. Humanoid. Graceful. Watching him, he raised the weapon, ready to fire, but then saw her clearly, tall, slender, with skin the color of warm sunset metal. Her silver hair caught the dying light like threads of glass, and her eyes, they were a deep shining blue, almost glowing from within. She didn't move closer, didn't speak, just watched him with a strange calm. Cade lowered his weapon slightly. I come in peace, he said, voice rough. The woman tilted her head as if weighing the words. Then she spoke, each syllable slow and musical. Then you're lucky I found you first, human. This place eats outsiders, he blinked. You speak my language? Her lips curved into the faintest smile. Your kind broadcasts too much. It's easy to learn. She glanced toward the horizon where thin trails of dust began to rise. Scavengers. They smell metal. We need to move. Scavengers? She extended her hand. Follow me if you want to survive the night. Cade hesitated only a moment before taking it. Her palm was warm, steady. As they ran into the violet dusk, the alien sky bled into twilight behind them. 2 suns sinking low, painting the crash site in fire and shadow. And somewhere out there, unseen eyes turned toward the fallen ship. Drawn by the promise of fresh prey, the human had arrived on Vera, and the planet had just begun to notice. The alien woman led Cade across the plains, moving fast and silent. Her silver hair flashed whenever the twin moons caught it. He stumbled after her, clutching his blaster and trying to keep up. His body ached from the crash, but adrenaline kept him going. Behind them, faint lights glimmered where the wreck had been. Shapes circled the area like vultures made of metal, so those were the scavengers, machines, or maybe something worse. The woman never looked back. "This way," she whispered, voice carrying easily even in the open air. They reached a jagged ridge of stone that rose from the violet grass like the spine of some ancient creature. She placed her hand against one slab and it shimmered faintly before sliding open to reveal a narrow crack in the rock. "In here. Quickly." Cade squeezed inside, shoulders scraping stone. The air was cool and smelled faintly of rain. The narrow tunnel opened into a vast cavern that made him stop in awe. Light filled the space, not from lamps, not from fire, but from the walls themselves. The stone glowed with millions of tiny living motes like glowing algae frozen in crystal. The color shifted between soft green and blue, pulsing gently as if alive. "Holy," Cade whispered. "This place is beautiful." "They are called Lume," she said, her voice soft but proud. "They live inside the rock and feed on minerals. They have been here longer than my people." She brushed her hand over one of the glowing patches. It brightened instantly, rippling light across the cavern. Cade stepped closer. "They react to touch?" "They react to life," she corrected. "And they hide it too. The scavenger's sensors can't detect us here." He exhaled in relief. "So we're safe?" "For now." She sat gracefully on a smooth stone. "You humans are careless. You fall from the sky without knowing where you land." Cade gave a dry laugh. "Didn't exactly plan the crash." "I know," she said simply. "But Vera has rules. It watches those who come uninvited." That made him pause. "It watches?" She nodded toward the ceiling, where the Lume's light flickered like stars. "This planet is not dead rock. It feels, it remembers. The ground you walk on has memory and it decides who belongs." He frowned. "And humans don't?" Her blue eyes softened. "We will see." They sat in silence for a moment, the only sound the quiet hum of the living light. Cade studied her. Sharp but elegant features, calm posture, eyes that looked both ancient and curious. "What do I call you?" he asked finally. "Lyra. Cade Rowan," he said, tapping his chest. "Pilot, explorer, sometimes idiot." A small smile curved her lips. "You are honest." "That is rare," he grinned. "Well, honesty's easier than explaining the crash." Her expression turned serious again. "You should know something. That anomaly which pulled you down, it wasn't random. It was a defense. Vera doesn't allow visitors to come close. The gravity storms protect old things, dangerous things." "What kind of things?" Lyra hesitated. "Relics. From those who lived here long before any of us. My people call them predecessors. They built wonders, but their creations turned against them. The planet hides what remains." As she spoke, a tremor ran through the floor, soft but steady. The Lume's glow shifted from blue to amber, brightening around one section of the wall. Lyra frowned. "That's new," Cade stood. "What's it mean?" "They never react this way." She stepped closer, placing her hand against the light. "There's something behind this wall. Something old." The vibration deepened. The stone surface split slightly, revealing faint lines of golden symbols etched into it. Cade felt a hum under his fingertips like an engine buried deep beneath. "This isn't natural," he said. "Looks constructed." "It is." Her voice trembled just a little. "But I've lived here my whole life. I've never seen this passage open." The wall responded to her words. The seam widened, stone grinding on stone until a gap appeared, dark, deep, and waiting. A cold breath of air swept from it, carrying the faint metallic scent of ozone. The Lume dimmed as if fearful. Lyra looked at Cade. "Something wants to be found." He met her gaze. "Then let's find out what it is." The air thickened with energy as they stepped forward together, the living light flickering behind them like nervous stars. Neither of them noticed that a single spark from the glowing wall drifted onto Cade's boot and melted quietly into the fabric like it had chosen him. Outside, the scavengers prowled the wreckage of the Wayfarer. One paused, its red sensor flickering toward the ridge. The faint echo of power reached even there, an awakening signal pulsing from deep within the planet's heart. The storm that brought the human down had not been an accident. It had been an invitation. The tunnel beyond the glowing wall stretched downward in a slow spiral, carved with perfect precision. The air smelled faintly metallic, humming with hidden power. Each step Cade took made the floor vibrate softly, as if the planet itself was aware of his presence. Lyra moved ahead with cautious grace, her silvery hair swaying like a ribbon of light. "These corridors were made by the predecessors," she whispered. "No one has walked here for centuries." Cade ran his fingers along the wall. Symbols etched into the surface pulsed with faint amber light at his touch. "You sure they won't mind us dropping in?" "If they do," Lyra replied dryly. "You can explain it to their ghosts." After several minutes, the path widened into a vast circular chamber. The ceiling shimmered faintly, filled with suspended crystals that cast slow-moving reflections across the floor. At the center stood a dais of black stone, and on it, resting in silent majesty, was a suit of armor unlike anything Cade had ever seen. It looked alive. Its surface wasn't solid metal, but something in between, flowing, liquid-like, constantly shifting in microscopic motion. Faint lines of gold light ran across it in geometric patterns. Cade stepped closer, instinctively drawn. "It's beautiful." Lyra's expression was wary. "It's a mantle. My ancestors told stories of these. They said only the chosen could wear them." He circled the dais slowly, studying it. "Chosen for what?" "To fight," she answered quietly. "To protect this world. But it always demanded a price." The air around the armor hummed as if reacting to their voices. Cade felt a faint pull in his chest, an almost magnetic sensation tugging him closer. Lyra touched his arm sharply. "Stop, don't touch it. The mantle chooses, not you." He smirked faintly, but there was something hypnotic about the suit. His reflection rippled on its surface, and for a heartbeat, he thought he saw his eyes flash amber. He blinked and the illusion vanished. "You said it chooses," he said, stepping back. "Then we're safe unless it likes me." Lyra didn't return the smile. "You don't understand. These things aren't weapons, Cade. They're entities. Half machine, half will. When they bond, they don't let go." He nodded slowly, though curiosity burned in his eyes. "Got it, no touching." They explored the chamber a bit longer, tracing inscriptions that told fragmented stories. Wars among stars, strange creatures descending from the sky, and beings wearing the living armor to fight them. Lyra's voice lowered as she read. "The mantle draws from the bearer's life force. It gives strength but consumes the soul. The wearer becomes more than flesh and less than self." Cade frowned. "So whoever used this thing probably didn't retire peacefully." Few did. When they finally left the chamber, the wall sealed itself behind them, erasing all sign of the opening. The glow faded, returning the cavern to silence. They climbed back toward the surface tunnels, the light of the Lumai guiding their way. Cade felt drained yet alert, like his blood carried static. His heartbeat seemed to echo faintly in his ears. Lyra led the way through the last narrow passage, emerging once more into the open plains under a violet dawn. She squinted toward the horizon. "We should move east. There's a forest ahead, safer from the scavengers." Cade nodded, hoisting his pack. "Lead on." They walked for hours through rippling grass. The twin suns rose higher, the air growing warmer, almost electric. Sweat clung to his neck, but the heat didn't bother him as much as before. In fact, he felt stronger, sharper. Lyra glanced at him. "You're quiet." "Just thinking," Cade said, but his voice felt strange in his throat. Deeper, resonant. She frowned. "Your eyes," he blinked. "What about them?" "They're glowing. Faintly." He pulled out a small reflective panel from his kit. Sure enough, thin lines of amber shimmered across his irises like liquid fire. His veins pulsed under the skin of his forearm, glowing faint gold beneath the surface. "What the hell?" He rubbed at his arm, but the glow didn't fade. Lyra grabbed his wrist, inspecting closely. "These markings, they look like the runes on the mantle." "I didn't touch it," Cade said quickly. She crouched, scanning his boots. Her fingers froze on a small patch near the heel, something metallic fused with the fabric. A coin-sized fragment glimmering faintly. She pried it free with a knife, and it pulsed once like a heartbeat. "It's a piece of the mantle," she breathed. "It bonded to you." Cade stared at it, feeling the same pull from the chamber, a low hum that resonated inside his chest. "So, what happens now?" "It's already begun." She wrapped the shard in cloth and tucked it away, though even through the fabric it still glowed faintly. "If we're lucky, we can slow the bond. If not what? You won't stay human for long." The wind shifted, sweeping across the plains. In the distance, the scavengers' shapes appeared again. Dark silhouettes gliding low, drawn by the lingering energy of the crash. Lyra tightened her grip on her weapon. We keep moving. The Whispering Forest isn't far. We might find answers there. Cade looked down at his arm where the glow traced patterns under the skin, pulsing with his heartbeat. He flexed his hand and felt something, power, raw and alive, flow through him. Yeah, he said quietly, watching the distant horizon blaze gold under the twin suns. Let's see what this thing really wants. Unseen behind him, the wrapped fragment pulsed brighter, like it had just taken its first breath. By midday, the plains gave way to shadow. The land rose into a line of towering blue-green trees whose tops brushed the clouds. Each leaf shimmered faintly, glowing as if it held trapped starlight. This was the Whispering Forest, and even before they entered, Cade could hear it. Not wind. Not insects. Voices. They came as soft murmurs layered together like thousands whispering secrets just out of reach. He slowed, listening. The voices seemed to flow around his mind, not through his ears. Some were gentle, others. Angry, Lyra noticed his hesitation. Don't listen too closely, she warned. The forest remembers every war ever fought here. Sometimes it shares those memories with the living. Cade managed a grim smile. And you still think this is safer than the scavengers? Safer, yes. Kinder no. They stepped beneath the canopy. Instantly the air changed, cool, damp, electric. Shafts of teal light cut through drifting mist. The trunks were huge and twisted, covered in veins of glowing moss that pulsed like slow heartbeats. Every sound seemed amplified, the crunch of boots, the hiss of breath. And beneath it all, those whispers. He carries the spark. He is not a Vera, he should not be here. Cade stopped. Did you hear that? Lyra's hand brushed his arm. Don't answer them. They're testing you. He exhaled slowly, forcing calm, but the voices pressed harder, tugging at his thoughts. He felt his skin prickle, the golden lines on his arms flickering like fireflies. Then the ground moved. Roots burst from the soil, twisting toward them like living serpents. One lashed across Cade's path, another coiled around his ankle. He fired instinctively, a plasma bolt searing the air, but before it struck, a pulse of golden energy shot from his own hand, vaporizing the roots in a flash. He stared at his palm, smoke curling from it. I didn't mean to do that. Lyra looked alarmed. The mantle is defending you. It's alive inside you now. Yeah, I'm starting to notice the forest wasn't finished. Branches above them creaked, twisting together. Bark cracked like snapping bones. From the trees formed rough shapes, faces of wood and light, staring down with cold judgment. Lyra stepped forward and began to sing, her voice soft and melodic, echoing through the forest like rippling water. The faces paused. The roots hesitated. The whispers softened. Cade felt the pressure in his head ease. What are you doing? Speaking the old tongue, she said, not stopping. Reminding the forest that I belong, and that you are under my protection. After a moment, the living branches sank back into the soil. The faces melted away into bark. The voices retreated to murmurs again. Lyra finally lowered her hands, breathing hard. It will leave us alone for a time. But the mantle's power woke its memory. The forest knows what you carry. Cade flexed his fingers, golden sparks still flickering between them. Yeah, well, tell it I'm not looking for trouble. The forest doesn't believe words, she said. Only balance. They continued deeper until the light dimmed to a faint blue haze. Strange flowers bloomed in patches along the roots, their petals releasing a mist that shimmered like dust. Cade caught one in his hand. It melted instantly, leaving glowing residue across his fingers. I don't think this planet likes me, he muttered. Lyra smiled faintly. It doesn't dislike you. It fears what you might become. Hours passed. The forest seemed endless, alive, shifting, breathing. Cade's thoughts began to blur. The mantle inside him whispered in rhythm with the forest like they were speaking the same language. Join us, a voice said, deep and resonant. You are almost complete, he stumbled, gripping his head. Lyra turned, worry flashing in her eyes. Cade, he gasped. It's talking to me. The mantle. It wants something. She grabbed his shoulders. Don't answer it. It feeds on will. If you let it lead, it will take everything. He shut his eyes, fighting the pulsing rhythm in his veins. Easier said than done. Then from somewhere far off came a different sound, a deep rumble like thunder inside the earth. The ground shook beneath their feet. Birds, or things like birds, screamed overhead, scattering into the mist. Lyra froze. That wasn't the forest, what was it? The temple, she said, eyes wide. It's waking. Golden light flickered across the distant trees like dawn spreading underground. Cade's markings flared in response, brighter than ever. He felt his pulse sync with the rhythm of the light. It's calling me, he whispered. Lyra grabbed his hand. Then we follow it before something else does. They ran toward the glow, mist swirling around them like ghosts. The forest parted reluctantly, whispering warnings in the dark. He carries the mantle. He will change the world, or end it. As they ran, the markings on Cade's skin formed clearer patterns. No longer chaotic lines, but organized symbols, alive with intent. His steps felt lighter, faster, more controlled. Whatever the mantle was doing, it was evolving. When they finally stopped at a ridge overlooking a valley of blue fireflies and towering roots, Cade could see a faint structure deep within the forest's heart, ancient stone half swallowed by trees, glowing with the same light that burned under his skin. Lyra stared in awe. The Temple of Ascension? It's real. Cade's breath came slow, heavy. The glow beneath his skin answered the temple's light like an echo. Yeah, he said quietly, and I think it's been waiting for me. The deeper they went, the quieter the world became. The whispering forest no longer murmured in threat. It listened. Each step they took toward the valley was met with faint ripples of light that rolled through the roots like a heartbeat traveling underground. By the time they reached the base of the ridge, the air had changed. It shimmered faintly, heavy with static and energy, like a storm that never quite broke. The Temple of Echoes rose before them, half structure, half organism. Its stone walls were fused with ancient trees, their bark grown over alien metal veins that pulsed softly with gold. The entrance was a perfect archway, humming faintly as if it recognized the one approaching. Lyra slowed. It's older than my people ever recorded, she whispered. My ancestors said this was where the predecessors made peace with the planet before they vanished. Cade's eyes flickered amber in the dim light. Then maybe it's where I'll figure out what this thing wants from me. They entered cautiously. The chamber inside was massive, circular, its floor covered with faintly glowing runes that pulsed in rhythm with Cade's heartbeat. Every sound echoed, each breath, each step, until it felt like the temple was breathing with them. In the center stood a column of transparent crystal, 10 meters tall, filled with swirling golden mist. The patterns on Cade's skin brightened immediately, answering the glow within. Lyra's expression hardened. It knows you, Cade swallowed. Yeah, and I don't know if that's a good thing. He approached slowly, drawn by the same magnetic pull that had called him to the mantle chamber. The golden mist moved faster, coiling upward like a living thing. A voice filled the room, layered, ancient, neither male nor female. Bearer of the fragment, why do you walk the path of the chosen? Cade froze. I didn't choose anything, it chose me, the light flared. The mantle remembers will. It remembers blood. He felt the floor vibrate beneath his boots. Visions sparked in his mind. Flashes of the predecessors, shining figures encased in living armor, standing against monstrous shadows falling from the sky. Weapons of light, armies of darkness. Lyra stepped beside him, her eyes wide. It's showing you their memories. The war that ended them. The voice continued. They forged the mantle to fight the hollow stars, to save Vera. But they failed. Their hearts were too still, too cold. The bond consumed them. Cade clenched his fists. And now it's trying again with me? You are unlike them, the voice said. You burn. He felt something stir inside him, power and fear mixed together. The mantle's light flowed up his arms, covering his chest, his neck. The transformation crawled forward with frightening speed. Lyra ran forward. Cade, stop! It's merging too fast. The voice deepened. Resist and you break. Accept and you ascend. Cade's body trembled. The power felt intoxicating. His heartbeat synced with the pulse of the temple. He saw himself reflected in the crystal wall, part human, part radiant metal, veins of molten gold tracing through flesh. Lyra gripped his arm. Remember what I told you, the mantle feeds on will. You have to stay you. He met her gaze. Then help me hold on. She pressed her palms against his chest, closing her eyes. Her skin glowed faintly where it touched his. A wave of blue light spread through him, clashing with the golden one. The temple reacted. The runes beneath them shifted color, alternating blue and gold like competing heartbeats. The ancient voice wavered. Two energies. Bound. Impossible. Lyra gasped but didn't move. We make it possible, she whispered. You wanted balance. Here it is. The mantle's glow softened, slowing its spread. The pain dulled into warmth. The golden lines on Cade's skin stabilized, no longer crawling, no longer devouring, just being. He took a slow breath. Still me, he said hoarsely. Still human, the voice fell silent. For a long moment there was only the sound of their breathing, and the low hum of the crystal. Then the mist inside it condensed into a single sphere of light that drifted down toward them. It hovered before Cade, pulsing gently. You bring what we lacked, it said. Heart. The orb split in two, one fragment sinking into Cade's chest, another floating toward Lyra. It touched her hand and dissolved, leaving behind a faint silver mark shaped like a star. When the glow faded, the runes dimmed. The temple grew quiet again, as if satisfied. Lyra lowered her hands, trembling. It accepted you. Or tested me, Cade said. His voice sounded steadier, but inside he felt different, alive, aware of everything around him. He could sense the pulse of the planet, the breath of the trees outside, even Lyra's heartbeat echoing faintly through the air. He turned toward the temple's exit. Beyond the archway, the forest shimmered under the light of the twin moons. But above it, something new flickered, a thin black ripple across the stars. Lyra followed his gaze. What is that? Cade's jaw tightened. Maybe the reason this armor was made in the first place. Far away in the cold silence of space, the hollow stars stirred again, and the planet whispered in fear. Night had fallen completely by the time Cade and Lyra stepped out of the temple. The forest glowed faintly around them, no longer hostile, no longer whispering in warning, but watching in silence. The air was thick with electricity, as if every tree was holding its breath. Above, the twin moons shone pale and distant, but between them the stars seemed wrong. A slow distortion rippled across the sky like ink bleeding through water. The lights shimmered, dimmed, and twisted into new patterns. Lyra gripped his arm. That is not the night sky I know. Cade's gaze hardened. The temple showed me this. They're coming back. The mantle's glow along his skin deepened, tracing golden lines that pulsed in sync with the distortion above. He could feel them, shapes beyond space, vast and hungry. The hollow stars. They weren't stars at all, but entities drifting in the void like living shadows that fed on worlds. Lyra's voice trembled. The last time they came, the predecessors burned half of Vera to stop them. And now, Cade said grimly, it's our turn. They didn't sleep that night. The forest trembled with unease, its roots shifting restlessly beneath the soil. Cade could sense everything, the heartbeat of the land, the faint hum of energy under the crust, the pulse of life across the continent. The mantle had connected him to the planet's nervous system. At dawn, the horizon burned gold and red. In that light, he saw movement, hundreds of glowing shapes drifting down from orbit. Not ships, not meteors. They were fragments of the hollow stars themselves, breaking through the atmosphere like liquid darkness. Lyra gasped. They're seeding the planet. Cade's eyes flared amber. Not if I can stop them. Before she could speak, the mantle spread across his body, smooth, metallic, alive. Plates of golden material slid into place over his chest, arms, and shoulders, forming a perfect second skin. The air around him rippled with pressure. Lyra stepped back, half in awe, half in fear. You've completed the bond. Not fully, he said, his voice layered with a faint metallic undertone. Just enough, he raised a hand. The ground trembled, roots rising like spears. Energy pulsed through the forest, racing outward like a wave. The mantle was channeling the planet's own defenses through him. Far above, one of the dark entities broke apart in a flare of gold, dissolving into nothing. Lyra's eyes widened. You destroyed it. He shook his head. No, I woke something older. As if on cue, the forest around them responded. Trees began to glow from within, their trunks shifting as ancient runes emerged on their bark. The energy Cade released wasn't just power, it was a signal. Across Vera, other long-buried structures flickered to life. Towers, monoliths, machines half swallowed by time. Lyra stared in disbelief. You've reactivated the planetary network. The predecessors built it to resist invasion. Cade smiled faintly. Guess I've got their Wi-Fi password now. For a brief moment there was hope, light spreading, power rising, but the sky darkened again. The hollow stars screamed. The sound wasn't physical but psychic, a pressure that dug into the mind, twisting thoughts into despair. Lyra dropped to her knees, clutching her head. They're trying to break our will. Cade's armor flared brighter, shielding them in a bubble of amber light. Stay behind me. Shapes began forming at the edge of the forest. Creatures of living shadow with burning white eyes and movements that defied logic. They twisted between dimensions, half there, half not. Cade stepped forward. The mantle hummed in his bones. His vision split into multiple spectrums. He could see their weak points, their energy patterns. He clenched his fist and light burst outward, vaporizing the first wave. Lyra rose beside him, gripping her weapon, its blue plasma igniting in the dark. You're not fighting alone. He glanced at her, the faintest smile beneath the mask. Didn't plan to. Together they fought through the night, the human bonded to ancient power and the alien warrior whose voice could calm the forest itself. Every strike of Cade's fist unleashed golden arcs that shattered the shadow beasts into drifting smoke. Every note of Lyra's melodic battle cry strengthened the land beneath their feet, but the sky grew darker still. For every creature they destroyed, more poured down. The horizon flickered with light as distant regions of the planet lit up in war. Cade staggered slightly, the mantle's power surging too fast. Lyra caught him. You can't hold this forever. He met her gaze, determination blazing. I don't have to, just long enough to make them remember why they feared this world. He planted his hand on the ground. The planet responded, volcanoes glowing gold, oceans swirling with radiant storms, the forest roaring like a living giant. For a moment, Vera itself rose against the invaders. The sky split in half darkness, half light. The hollow stars recoiled, their forms flickering. Lyra shielded her eyes. Cade, what are you doing? Not fighting them, he shouted over the thunder. Showing them we're not prey anymore. The energy peaked. A wave of golden light erupted from him, stretching beyond the atmosphere. The hollow stars screamed one final time and vanished, retreating into the void. Silence returned. The forest stilled. The light faded. Cade collapsed to one knee, the mantle dimming but still alive. Lyra rushed to him, kneeling beside his side. He gave a weak smile. Guess it worked. She helped him up, her eyes full of wonder. You didn't just fight them. You taught the planet to fight with you. Cade looked at the sky where the stars shimmered peacefully once more. Then let's make sure it remembers how. Far beyond the edge of sight, in the void between worlds, the hollow stars coiled and whispered. They had been driven back, but not destroyed. And deep inside the mantle, Cade felt it too. A pulse, steady and patient, waiting for what came next. The morning after the battle dawned strangely quiet. No wind, no whispers. The forest stood still, its glowing leaves pale in the early light as if the entire planet was catching its breath. Smoke rose faintly on the horizon where the sky had burned the night before, but the stars above shone peacefully once again. Cade stood among the roots of a giant tree, the mantle dimmed to a soft bronze shimmer across his skin. Every movement felt heavy now, not from exhaustion alone, but from the weight of what he'd unleashed. His human heartbeat had synchronized with something far greater, the rhythm of Vera itself. Lyra moved beside him, her hair tangled from the storm, her expression both awed and haunted. The hollow stars are gone, she whispered, but the planet is different. It's awake. Cade nodded slowly. He could feel it too. Every breath of wind, every tremor in the soil felt alive. The forest no longer feared him, it followed his pulse. The mantle had become a bridge connecting his humanity to Vera's consciousness. He turned toward Lyra. We stopped them, for now. But that wasn't victory. It was a warning, she frowned. A warning? They'll come again, Cade said, eyes scanning the brightening sky. They retreated because they saw something new, something they didn't understand. Humanity, bonded with what they thought they'd already destroyed. Lyra placed a hand over his armored chest. Then they'll learn to fear that something. For the first time since the crash, he smiled faintly. That's the plan. They began walking through the forest, following the faint golden veins that now ran beneath the ground like roots of light. Every few steps the earth pulsed in response, acknowledging him. The once hostile woods now opened in silence, letting them pass. When they reached the ridge overlooking the valley, Cade stopped. The Temple of Echoes still stood, glowing gently like a heartbeat. But now smaller lights shimmered across the landscape, dormant relics reawakening. Cities of the predecessors, long forgotten, rising again under the planet's call. Lyra inhaled sharply. You've reconnected the world. Vera hasn't looked like this in thousands of years. Then maybe it's time it did, Cade said. If we're going to face what's coming, this planet has to remember what it used to be. She turned to him, concern softening her expression. And what about you? The mantle hasn't left you since the battle. You can't stay like this forever. Cade looked down at his arm where the golden lines still glowed beneath his skin. Fainter now, but steady. Alive. I don't think it's separate anymore, he said quietly. It's part of me. Not a weapon, not a curse, just evolution. Lyra stepped closer. Then maybe you are what this world needed all along. He met her gaze.
Or what it accidentally created. A long silence passed between them.
The planet hummed softly beneath their feet. In that sound there was peace, but also potential. Lyra's voice broke the stillness. What will you do now? Cade looked toward the horizon where the twin suns began to rise. Two bright orbs climbing through a sky that no longer seemed hostile. I'll build something new, he said. A defense network, a unity. Not just humans or Varans, both. The mantle isn't a relic anymore, it's a promise. Lyra smiled, faint and tired. Then we'll start here. He turned to her, eyes glowing faint gold. We? Her smile deepened. You didn't think I'd let you run the future alone, did you? He laughed, the sound echoing softly through the awakening forest. Guess not. Together they descended toward the valley, the golden veins beneath their feet pulsing brighter as they moved, like the planet itself was marking their path. High above, clouds parted to reveal a streak of light cutting through the atmosphere. A distant meteor or perhaps a probe. Cade's smile faded as he watched it vanish beyond the horizon. Lyra followed his gaze. What is it? Something falling, he said. Or something returning. The mantle on his chest pulsed once, steady, deliberate, like a warning heartbeat. He exhaled slowly. Looks like the next chapter's already on its way. The forest's hum deepened, rolling through the mountains like a promise, or a prophecy. The twin suns flared brighter, washing them both in golden light as they kept walking toward the new dawn of Vera. The legend of the human who fell from the sky and woke a sleeping world had just begun.